Hello and welcome to this episode of the NJCAA Central District Hoops Report. I'm your host, Justin Grivis, and in this episode we have some exciting news for one team and more in regards to the rankings. We have two teams in the receiving votes category. One is Vincennes, the other is a surprise team that I am happy to report on is going to be interesting going into district play. We cover that, and we jump into this week's slate of games that go all the way through the Thanksgiving holiday. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first team, the SWIC Blue Storm, and see how they did last week. And SWIC only had one game last week. They traveled to take on the Lewis and Clark Trailblazers, a former district opponent, now Division II in the NJCAA. And this game went down to the wire. Not really what I was expecting, but it was the result I was expecting, with SWIC pulling a 80-78 win. They trailed by 13 going into the half, and that's what Lewis and Clark really can do to you. Lewis and Clark led 47-34, and SWIC was able to counter that and outscore them in the second half by 15 to pull out the 2-point victory. Looking at the field goal percentage, SWIC shot 33 of 62 compared to Lewis and Clark's 31 of 59. So both of them shot over 50% from the field. 3-point wise, SWIC was 3 of 11 compared to Lewis and Clark's 7 of 23. So both teams really didn't shoot it well from behind the arc, but it was really the free throws, which SWIC netted 11 of 22 compared to Lewis and Clark's 9 of 13. The rebounding battle, which SWIC won 42-24. And the turnover battle, which SWIC lost that 18-9. So this is how you really see it, how SWIC got into a dogfight against the Trailblazers of Lewis and Clark. Like I said, turnovers are going to kill you in this league. Even though Lewis and Clark is a Division II opponent, they still know how to play in this league, and they get after you. The rebounding battle, on the other hand, is a lot more in the favor of how you want to win these games. Let's go ahead and jump to the individual scoring for the Blue Storm. They were led by Nick Horas, who was 8 of 14 from the field, 5 of 6 from the foul line. He grabbed 8 rebounds to go along with his 23 points. Matthew Kerpru LZ was also the leading scorer in double figures for the Blue Storm, who was 7 of 15, grabbing 13 rebounds, 8 of them being defensively, having 2 assists and 4 turnovers to go along with his 18 points. Braden Klein was 4 of 9. He was close to getting in double digits. He had 3 offensive rebounds to go with those 9 points and had an assist. Off the bench, SWIC really didn't get too much help. Lee Williams was the only one that really contributed for the Blue Storm, who went 3 for 8 from the field and grabbed 3 rebounds, finishing with 7 points. But other than that, you had Jamoy Weisinger, who had 5 points, but you get no help off the bench, really. So that's another way how you lose games in the district, is if you can't get good bench play. Lewis and Clark, on the other hand, like I said, they dropped down to Division II last year, but they're able to still play in this league and gave SWIC a run for their money. Joshua Dinkins led the way for the Trailblazers, going 4 of 7 from the field and grabbing 8 rebounds and 2 assists to go along with 2 steals. He finished with 8 points. Brandon Stampley Jr. was 4 of 6 from the field, 3 of 5 from behind the arc, and had 13 points along with 2 rebounds and 1 assist. But again, this is what the Trailblazers of Lewis and Clark do. They have 2 guys that get close to double figures or 1 in double figures, and then the rest of their starters are 4, 4, and 3. So that's really discouraging for the Trailblazers. Off the bench, though, you did get a couple guys with 14 points, that being Christopher Crosby Jr., going 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from behind the arc, grabbing 3 rebounds to go along with the 14 points. And Darren Enlow, who was also 6 of 8 from the field, 1 of 3 from behind the arc, finishing with 14 points, but having 3 steals on the other hand. So you get good bench play to counteract the lackluster starters play, but that's how we get into this very tight ball game. Again, Lewis and Clark led for the most part. SWIC didn't really take control until deep into that second half. SWIC played from behind the entire game until the minute and a half mark and was finally able to pull out a 2-point victory. Up next, the Vincennes Trailblazers started their week off on the right foot, beating the Kankakee Cavaliers 83-53 and really lining it up in the second half. As a team, Vincennes shot 35 of 66 compared to the Cavaliers 20 of 59. So the Cavaliers shot 33.9% from the field compared to Vincennes' 53%. But the big key here was the three-point battle. Vincennes was 7 of 17, good for 41.2% from behind the arc, compared to Kankakee's 1 of 10, good for only 10% from behind the arc. Now, the Cavaliers did get to the line more, going 16 times, netting 12 of them compared to Vincennes' 6 for 7 output. But really here, it was the rebounding battle that told the tale. Vincennes wins the battle 37-27, while losing the turnover battle only by 1, 15-14. When you get to about the Thanksgiving mark in the JUCO season, you want to have your turnovers around the 12 and under mark. So that's a little high for where Vincennes needs to be. But overall, in this game, when you're able to win the rebounding battle by 10 and still be able to force 14 turnovers yourself, losing that by only 1 is not a deal breaker. Let's go ahead and look at some individual stats. Starting with the Cavaliers, led by Jeremiah Edwards, who was 6 of 10 from the field, grabbing 3 rebounds and having a blocked shot. He finished with 13 points. Also, Calais McKinney was a good scorer for the Cavaliers. He was 2 of 11, 4 of 4 from the foul stripe, had 2 offensive rebounds to go along with 2 assists and 2 steals. He finished with 8 points. And then you had Joshua Ray, who was 4 of 9 from the field for the Cavaliers, 1 of 2 from the foul stripe, had 7 defensive rebounds to go along with an assist and a steal, and 3 blocked shots. He finished with 9 points. However, when you look at their bench, the only one to really get into the scoring column was Christopher here. He was 3 of 3 from the field, good for 6 points. Jaquan Payton was 2 of 8, good for 6 points. He had 2 assists as well. And then you had Christian Martin Johnson, who was 2 of 4 from the field, 3 of 3 from the foul line, to go with 7 points. On the Blazers side of things, you have 4 starters in double figures. Starting with Dayton Williams. He was 5 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2 from behind the arc, grabbing 5 rebounds to go along with 4 assists and 2 steals. The biggest thing here is he had 4 blocked shots to go along with all of that. He finished with 11 points. LeBron Thomas was an assist shy of a triple-double. He finished with 9 assists, 10 rebounds, and 10 points. He shot 4 of 9 from the field and 2 of 2 from the charity stripe. Michael Cooper continues his onslaught of great games as a Trailblazer. He went of 11 of 18 from the field, 3 of 6 from behind the arc, and grabbed 5 rebounds to go along with 2 assists and 2 steals while turning the ball over twice. He finished with a team-high 28 points. Jalen Callaway was 5 of 12 from the field, 2 of 4 from behind the arc. He grabbed 3 defensive rebounds, 5 rebounds total to go along with his 5 assists. No turnovers. That's huge for guard play for Vincennes. If they don't turn the ball over guard-wise, it leads normally to good things. He finished with 13 points. Another great thing that I saw from this was LeBron Thomas. He had 3 blocked shots to go along with all of his other stat padding, so he's able to do it not necessarily in the scoring column, but he's able to do it elsewise. While Christian Anderson was 1 of 4 from the field for 3 points. It was Kanaz Ochugwu, who was 4 of 4 from the field, grabbing 4 defensive rebounds and finishing with 8 points off the bench for the Trailblazers. So not really getting a ton of bench help were the Blazers, but able to pull out a big 30-point win against Kankakee. However, the good news does not continue as they took on Moberly area on Saturday and fell 63-51 and never really had their footing in this ballgame as Moberly led by 8 at the break and extended that a little bit afterwards in the second half. And it was just a poor shooting night for the Trailblazers. Moberly was 21 of 54 from the field compared to Vincennes' 19 of 62. So neither team really shot the ball well. Moberly just shot it a little less worse. They shot at 38.9% compared to Vincennes' 30.6%. From behind the arc, Moberly shot it at a 33% clip at 6 of 18 compared to Vincennes' 7 of 28. Vincennes still not able to get to the line as much as they want to. They were only 6 of 10 from the free throw line compared to Moberly 15 of 19. However, they do win the turnover battle 45-37, but if you only win the turnover battle by 8, you have to lose the turnover battle by 1 or win the turnover battle. It doesn't happen here as the Trailblazers lost it 17-6. Moberly really able to control the ball. Let's look at some scoring prowess for the Greyhounds in Moberly area. Thomas Dew, he only had 2 points. It was Ida Popla, who was 7 of 15, 5 of 7 from behind the arc, grabbing 10 rebounds, finishing with game-high 22 points. KJ Vassar was 3 of 12 from the floor, grabbing 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He finished with 15 points. And then it was Ronnie Mabandu, who was 3 of 4 from the field, grabbing 4 rebounds and finishing with 8 points. The Trailblazers were led by LeBron Thomas, who was 6 of 16 from the field, 4 of 5 from the foul line. He had 7 rebounds to go along with his 19 points. Dayton Williams was not great shooting. He was 4 of 13, 2 of 8 from behind the arc. He did grab 12 rebounds to go along with 11 points, so double-double there for Williams. Jaden Calloway was 5 of 15, good for 11 points. He had 8 rebounds as well to go along with 3 assists. Coach Franklin only played 8, and he got no help from his bench as Christian Andrews was 1 of 4 from the field, only scoring the only bench points for the Trailblazers. And in a game where you don't shoot the ball extremely well, that is killer for the Trailblazers, who split the weekend and look to go into Thanksgiving break licking their wounds a little bit. Up next are the Lakeland Lakers, where they only had 1 game this week. They took on the Lincolnland Loggers as part of a home-and-home this year, and they win this game 76-65. I thought they were going to win this game relatively easy, and they did. They led by 3 at the half, but able to extend it out to 11 by the end. As a team, the Lakers shot 30 of 59 compared to the Loggers 23 of 58. Behind the arc, they took 24 threes, making 10 of them, good for 41.7%, while the Loggers shot 26.3%. Again, not really able to get to the free throw line were the Lakers. Only 6 of 11 from the stripe compared to Lincolnland's 14 of 20. However, as we look at the rebounding and the turnover battle, Lakeland really takes the advantage here. They out-rebounded Lincolnland 40-22 and tied in the turnover battle at 7. But we get some extra stats here. I don't know if this is from Lakeland or Lincolnland, but we get points off turnovers where the Lakers were 10 compared to Lincolnland's 7, and points in the paint is where Lakeland really dominated, 34-28, and also the second chance points. So the rebounding battle leading to the second chance points led the way for Lakeland, which you see they led by as many as 16 points. And Lincolnland never led in this ball game. Again, advanced stats, not something I was looking into, but good to see here from the NJCAA website. Breaking it down now by player, Lakeland had 4 of them in double figures. 4 of their 5 starters were in double figures, led by Stevie Tatum and Devin Woods. Woods was 6 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from behind the arc, finishing with 15 points. He also had 3 assists. Tatum was 6 of 12 from the field, 3 of 7 from behind the arc, also finishing with 15. But he grabbed 7 rebounds to go along with 3 assists. Samuel Hincapie was 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 6 from the foul line, grabbed 7 rebounds. He finished with 13 points, and that's what Hincapie can really do is get your rebounds and then able to get it into points. He was able to do it last year. He's now able to do it this year. The last Laker in double figures starter-wise was Joshua Bryant. He was 5 of 8 from the field, grabbed 7 rebounds to go along with a blocked shot. He finished with 12. Off the bench for the Lakers, again, not really a lot of help here. It was Andrew Wetzel leading the way. He was 2 of 3, finishing with 6 points. For the Loggers of Lincoln Land, they were led by Camden Nelson, who was 4 of 8 from the field. All 4 of his field goals were from behind the arc. He had 3 rebounds to go along with 17 points. Kendall Lavender was another player in double figures. He was 2 of 8 from the field, finishing with 8 points. Mick Downs and A.J. Tillman finished with 7 points each for the Loggers. They get a little bit of help from the bench. Joshua Banks was 4 of 9 from the field, finishing with 9 points to go along with an assist and a rebound. Also, Michael Tyler was 4 of 5 from the field, finishing with 5 rebounds and 3 assists to go along with 8 points for the Loggers. Again, not able to come out with a win when they needed it. Really, really bad. Lincoln Land is 0-5. Lakeland is 6-0 heading into this week's slate of games. So the Lakers really starting to pick up steam. Are they able to continue this? I will talk with Coach Larry next week, and that's going to be one of the things I ask him is going into district play, how are we able to continue this momentum? Because they are off to a hot start, and I would love for them to continue this. Up next are the John A. Logan Volunteers, who started off their week falling to Mineral Area 71-66 on the road. Logan was 21 of 61 shooting compared to Mineral Area's 29 of 68. It was, again, behind the arc. Logan close to that 40% mark that I want every district team when you take 20-plus threes at. They finished with 39.1, 9 of 23 shooting. Mineral Area couldn't buy a bucket from behind the arc. Good for 1 of 16, good for 6.3%. At the foul line, Logan won this 15 for 20 compared to Mineral Area's 12 of 20. They won the rebounding battle as well, 42-35. But again, the turnover battle is where you see the turning point here. And Logan loses the turnover battle 15-9. I mentioned the shooting is about the same. Logan actually shot it a little worse from inside the three-point arc compared to Mineral Area. But free throw shooting the same. Three-point shooting, you outscore them there. But inside three-point range, not getting it to go down. On top of turning the ball over 15 times while only out-rebounding them by 7, is how you get a close but a substantial loss to the Cardinals of Mineral Area, a team that you beat the first game of the regular season. Let's go ahead and look at some team stats for the Vols. Davius Lowry was 4 of 13 shooting, 5 of 6 from the foul line. He had 10 rebounds to go along with 13 points. Another volunteer in double figures in rebounds was Deneko Rucker. He had 10 rebounds, 8 of them being defensively. He also had 2 turnovers, and he finished with a single point. But it really was Davius Lowry, and then Caden Hawkins, who was 5 of 6 shooting from the field, 2 of 2 from behind the arc, having 3 assists and 3 rebounds to go along with 12 points. Coach Smith-Peters were able to get a couple of volunteers to score off the bench. Darkle Payne was 4 of 7 from there, from the field, 2 of 4 from behind the arc, finishing with 12 points. While Taylor Smith was 3 of 9 shooting, grabbed 5 rebounds, and finishing with 10 points as well for the Volunteers. Mineral area had 3 players in double figures, all with 10 points. Jordan Logan, Jordan Richardson, and Edwin Dooling Jr. Logan was 5 of 9. Richard was 4 of 10. And Dooling Jr. was 5 of 14. Logan had 11 rebounds for the Cardinals to go along with a steal and a block. But off the bench, it was pretty even scoring. Aaron Walker Jr. was 4 of 12 shooting, good for 9 points, to go along with Diari Duncan, who was 4 of 5 shooting for 9 points. And Marcellus Phillips finishing with 6 points off the bench for the Cardinals. So well-rounding scoring for Mineral area, off the bench wise and starter wise. Joseph Scott was a point shy of being a 4th Cardinal in double figures, starter wise. So again, Logan loses a tough opening game, and then they had to play probably the toughest non-conference slate of weekend games. They hosted Indian Hills in Triton. They opened up against the Warriors of Indian Hills, and they fell 78-76. And this was as close could be. Logan led by 5 at the half, but not able to hang on close enough, as Indian Hills was able to nail a layup close to the buzzer to get the final victory. And you see this here. Both teams shot over 50% from the field. Logan, again, able to shoot 50% from behind the arc. They were 10 of 20 compared to Indian Hills, 5 of 18. The turnover battle was high for both teams, 17 for Hills, 18 for the Volunteers. And the Vols out-rebounded Indian Hills 31-30. So when you look at this, it is as close could be. And you look at the game film again, it's on Logan's channel, YouTube channel. It is literally a lay-in at like the 5-second mark for them to pull ahead with that final score. Indian Hills was led by Caden Nation, who was 6 of 8 from the field, finishing with 15 points. And Trenton Walters was 5 of 8 shooting, finishing with 10 points. Adulier Fall was 5 of 8 shooting, 1 of 3 from behind the arc, finishing with 5 rebounds and 12 points. It was William Berg-Cassie who, off the bench, led the way for the Indian Hills team, shooting 4 of 12, finishing with 10 points. Quentin Perkins Jr., or the second, finished 3 of 6, good for 9 points. And then Tayshawn Bridges was 5 of 9, 4 of 4 from the foul line, grabbing 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He finished with 14 points. For the Volunteers, they were led by Devarius Lowry, who was 4 of 7 from the field, had 4 rebounds and 4 assists, good for 11 points. He was the only Vol in double figures. However, Julian Norris Jr. came off the bench big for Coach Smith-Peters. 6 of 8 shooting, good for 16 points. Had 2 assists and 2 rebounds. And then Darkle Payne also big off the bench for Coach Smith-Peters. 5 of 8 shooting, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, finishing with 17 points. So when your starters aren't really contributing too much, being able to get a couple big players off the bench is always going to be helpful in this league and in general. And Coach Tyler Smith-Peters was able to get that. Again, just unfortunate that they weren't able to come away with a shocking victory here, as Indian Hills improves to 6-3 compared to Logan falling for the second time this week. However, Logan was able to get a little bit of redemption from last week where they lost to Triton by 22, winning against Triton this week 69-66 on Saturday. Triton, we don't have any stats for them, unfortunately, but Logan shot the ball okay. They were 23 of 58 and 5 of 16 from behind the arc. 18 of 22 from the foul line, had 37 rebounds to go along with 15 turnovers. So, again, I would really love to see later on Triton's scoring for that. Again, no stats from the team from District 4. So let's go ahead and look at the Volunteers, led by Taylor Smith. 8 of 16 shooting, 3 of 7 from behind the arc, grabbing 6 rebounds and finishing with 24 points. However, he did battle some foul trouble. He finished with 4 fouls. Marcus Evers had 5 of 10 shooting, 2 of 4 from three-point land. He finished with 13 points. While Caden Hawkins was 3 of 5 shooting, finishing with 8 assists and 10 points. And bench play this is how night and day bench play was for the Volunteers. They were led by Payne and Norris Jr. against Indian Hills. They didn't do a whole lot against Triton. The starters carried the load again, led by Taylor Smith's 24 points. But yeah, the only player off the bench that got meaningful points was Xavier Zubrick, who was 2 of 5 from the field, 3 of 6 from the foul line, having 3 rebounds, finishing with 7 points. So again, Logan able to pull out and savor the toughest 3-game stretch that I've seen in junior college hoops with a victory against Triton. I know they would have loved to have a 2-0 weekend, but unable to do so. 1 of 3 for the week, and more tough schedules or tough games heading down the pike for John A. The next team on the docket is the Kaskaskia Blue Devils, where they had a couple of rematches, starting with the Missouri Baptist JV team on November 18th. Kaskaskia was able to win this game 75-45. As a team, Kaskaskia was 31 of 83 shooting, where in the first game they were 41 of 90 shooting from the field. 6 of 17 shooting from behind the arc compared to 8 of 27 in game 1. 8 of 16 shooting free throw wise. Rebound wise, they grabbed the same amount of rebounds as they did in opening night with 55, while turning the ball over 1 time less. In the first game, they turned the ball over 12 times. Some individual scores for Kaskaskia. They were led by Kobe Wilmont, who's been really good for them lately. 8 of 12 shooting, 2 of 5 from behind the arc, grabbing 5 rebounds to go along with his 19 points. Miles Little was 6 of 12 shooting, having 8 rebounds and 2 assists to go along with 13 points of his own. While Jamal Chambers was 5 of 17 shooting, good for 12 points. He also had 4 steals, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists. Off the bench for Coach Hancock, Jared Mackey, who was 3 of 8 shooting from the field, 5 of 8 from the foul line, grabbing 10 rebounds, 9 of them being on the defensive end of the ball, stealing it 4 times while turning the ball over 3 times, finishing with 11 points. Terrell Galbraith was 3 of 6 shooting from the field. He finished with 4 rebounds as well and 7 points. As a team, like I said, Kaskaskia shot it a little bit less as we look at the team stat, 83 compared to 90. They cut down their 3-point attempts and making 2 more of them. Grabbing the same amount of rebounds and turning the ball over 1 last time against a team that you've seen a second time is always huge. And then they were supposed to play Simmons College on November 21st, but that game got canceled, as you see. And they finished their weekend up against another team that they played just last week, Oakland City University JV, where they won that initial game 95-58. They won this one 91-63. Let's go ahead and look at the team stats for this one. In game 1, they were 39 of 89. And just this past Saturday, they were 40 of 83. 6 of 15 from behind the arc on the rematch compared to 6 of 18 in the initial game. 5 of 10 free throw shooting, so still at that 50% mark are the Blue Devils. Rebounding-wise, they rebounded 52 in Game 2 compared to 62 in Game 1, while turning the ball over 5 times less. 10 turnovers in Game 2 compared to 15 in Game 1 for Kaskaskia. The leading scorer was Jamal Chambers, who was 8 of 16 shooting from the field, 3 of 4 from behind the arc, with finishing with 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 21 points. Markel Newsom was in double figures with 12 points. He was 4 of 10 shooting from the field, grabbed 2 rebounds and 5 assists, but he and Miles Little were in foul trouble, each of them committing 4 fouls. Kobe Wilmoth, again, in double figures, 5 of 11 shooting, good for 11 points, grabbing 6 rebounds with 3 assists, and 3 of them being offensive rebounds. Anthony Standiford finished with 10 points off of a 5 of 12 shooting night. He grabbed 9 rebounds and had 2 assists as well. Off the bench for Coach Hancock, it was Jared Mackey and Jakari Granger, each with 8 points, both shooting 4 of 8 from the field. But it was really Clemmy Chandler, who was a perfect 6 of 6 shooting from the field, grabbing 8 rebounds, 5 of them being defensively, and finishing 12 points off the bench for Kaskaskia that led the way. Again, winning this game 91-63 compared to Game 1's victory of 95-58. So Kaskaskia able to get back-to-back wins against both Missouri Baptist and Oakland City University JV teams. They get a big test up next week before they take on the Thanksgiving break. And we get to the team that has been a pleasant surprise, the Lincoln Trail Statesmen, coming in, staying perfect in the non-conference part of their schedule. They opened up against Danville area and pulled out a slim 73-72 victory over the Jaguars. And again, we get to see a little bit more detailed stats-wise for the Statesmen and the Jaguars. Lincoln Trail was 29 of 68 shooting compared to Danville area's 29 of 56. So Danville area shot 9% better here. Lincoln Trail was 8 of 23 from behind the arc, good for 34.8 compared to Danville area's 4 of 17, good for 23.5. Again, Lincoln Trail, if you're going to shoot 23 times, be at least 40%. I know that's asking a lot, but if you're going to have your whole game focused around the 3-ball, this is a good starting point. This is the lowest I want you to be, is that 35% mark. Free throw wise, the Statesmen didn't get to the line as much, 7 of 8, but Danville area wasn't necessarily knocking down free throws either. They were 10 of 14. Rebounding wise, Danville area wins the battle 36-34, but they lost the turnover battle by 3 at 12-9. So Lincoln Trail is able to keep the ball under control here, and being under 10 at this point in the season is phenomenal for the Statesmen. The points off turnovers you see here, the Statesmen had 19 compared to 9 for Danville area. Second chance points, 14-5. There's where your difference is in the ballgame here. 19 points off turnovers and 14 second chance points. Not to mention the 34-32 victory and the points in the paint battle. Now, like I said, this game went back and forth. The largest lead for Lincoln Trail was 9. For Danville area was 5. And you see it here. Danville led at the 6:52 mark. Lincoln Trail's largest lead was in the first half. There were 6 ties and 7 lead changes in this ballgame. Danville area beat Lincoln Trail on the bench points, but 21 bench points, as we'll see here, is nothing to scoff at. Starting with Lincoln Trail, who had 3 players in double digits. Starting wise, leading the way was Ronnie Ellis, who was 5 of 17 shooting, 4 of 9 from behind the arc. Had 3 rebounds to go along with his 14 points. Ty Williams was 4 of 17 shooting, 2 of 7 from behind the arc. Had 4 assists to go along with 2 steals. He finished with 13 points. Gabe Amorgi for the Statesman was 6 of 8. The most efficient Statesman had a double-double with 12 points, 12 rebounds, but he unfortunately fouled out in the ball game. Bench point-wise, they were led and carried by Jared Jackson, who was 8 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from behind the arc, had 1 foul, had 3 rebounds as well, finished with 18 points. For Danville area, they were led by Lorenzo McMillan, who was 6 of 10 shooting from the field, grabbing 7 rebounds and finishing with 13 points. Also, Dredden Nunn, who was 4 of 7 shooting, grabbing 6 rebounds and finishing with 11 points. Their leading scorer off the bench was Abdul Mitchell, who was 7 of 8 shooting from the field, had 2 assists, 3 rebounds, and finished with 16 points. They also had Jackson Twombly, who was 4 of 7 shooting from the field and finishing with 12 points. So again, Danville area being able to keep this game close. Again, they are a scrappy Division II JUCO team. They host the NJCAA in their national tournament, the D2 tournament, every year. So kudos to them. And then Kaskaskia was able, or not Kaskaskia, Lincoln Trail, was able to beat Kankakee 78-65. Let's go ahead and look at this box score here. The Cavaliers, after coming off of the loss to the Trailblazers, go to Lincoln Trail and fall once again, this time by 23 or by 13 points. Lincoln Trail was 30 of 64 shooting compared to Kankakee's 23 of 57. So both teams over the 40% mark. Lincoln Trail, once again, 6 of 17 shooting compared to 4 of 17 shooting from behind the arc for Kankakee. So again, 12 percentage points there difference. Both teams able to get to the line a little bit more in this ball game. Kankakee 15 of 20 compared to Lincoln Trail's 12 of 15. Lincoln Trail dominates the rebounding battle, 45-23. However, Kankakee turned the ball over 17 times, which is extremely high, but not as high as Lincoln Trail's 24 times. And you see the biggest difference between the Cavaliers and their game against Tuesday's opponent, Vincennes, and Saturday's opponent, Lincoln Trail. Both higher pace, run and gun type teams, so the turnovers aren't necessarily a bad surprise. Kankakee was led by Jeremiah Edwards, who was 6 of 12 shooting from the field, had 5 rebounds, 4 steals, and 13 points. Jamonte Smith and Joshua Ray also had 12 points. Smith was 4 of 12 shooting with 3 assists, while Ray was 5 of 6 shooting with 5 rebounds and 2 assists, both with 12 points. Bench play for the Cavaliers. Quessum Anderson was 2 of 6 shooting, good for 6 points, and he had 3 turnovers, while Jacoby Christopher was 1 of 3, but a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line, having 2 rebounds and finishing with 7 points. Lincoln Trail was led by Gabe Amorgi, who led 4 statesmen in double figures. He had 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 block shots off of an 8 of 15 shooting night. Ty Williams and Jared Jackson each had 10, with Williams and Jackson each adding 5 rebounds themselves. Williams had 4 assists compared to Jackson's 4 steals. And finally, Ronnie Ellis leading out the scoring for the Statesmen with 14 points off of a 5 of 13 shooting performance, having 5 rebounds and 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Bench plays, Michael White and Travian Belcher each had 8 points. Belcher was 3 of 3 shooting and had 6 rebounds compared to White's 3 of 4 shooting and 1 assist. So White was also 2 of 3 from behind the arc. So The state's been able to pull out another big-time win. District 4 opponent, always difficult. And we've seen District 4 kind of bite the Central District in the tail as of late. So Lincoln Trail, once again, getting into the receiving votes category of the latest polls, along with Vincennes. Vincennes fell out of the polling from 21 to the first team in the receiving votes category. Up next are the Olney Central Blue Knights, who only had one game this week, as Three Rivers came into town and came out with an 86-59 victory. Three Rivers shot 36 of 65% from the field, good for 55.4, compared to Olney's 20 of 56, 35.7. The Raiders were 7 of 17 from behind the arc, compared to Olney's 9 of 24, and really dominated the rebounding battle 54-14, although they did lose the turnover battle 20-10. So Olney Central didn't turn the ball over that much. However, absolutely getting beat on the boards by 40 will definitely lead to this type of result for Three Rivers. Let's go ahead and look at the leading scores. Three Rivers had 3 players in double digits starter-wise, led by Dion Wesson, who was 8 of 9 shooting from the field, finishing with 18 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. While he didn't score in double figures, William Patterson led them in rebounds with 10, finishing with 9 points off of a 4 of 9 shooting performance. Demetrius White was 5 of 9 shooting, finishing with 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals to go along with 3 assists. And finally, Matt Hampton was 7 of 13 shooting, had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and finishing with 16 points. The Raiders bench had a couple of players contribute. Ethan Johnson, who was 3 of 5 shooting and 8 points. Antonio Williams, 2 of 2 shooting and finishing with 6 points as well. For Olney Central, 2 players in double figures. Kassam Nash, who was 5 of 13 shooting, finishing with 16 points, had 2 steals and 2 rebounds. And Logan Webb, off of another poor shooting performance, 4 of 14 shooting, finishing with 11 points and 5 steals, however, with 3 assists. Like I said, Three Rivers turned the ball over a lot in this ball game. So Logan Webb being able to pick the pocket 5 times and not turn the ball over was huge. Again, it was just shooting that doomed the Blue Knights, as Jaleel Bethay was 6 of 15 shooting, 3 of 4 from the foul line, had 4 rebounds, 2 assists to finish with 17 points off the bench. Olney only played 8 players in this game, so I think they're getting closer to that core that they can rely on. But again, Three Rivers just comes into the dungeon and just overpowers Olney Central. And this is why I said the Lincoln Trail victory over Three Rivers was so impressive, because they're able to do this on a typical night. We saw that against Logan, and we see it here against Olney Central. So, once again, the Lincoln Trail victory is huge. Like Olney, Wabash Valley had a difficult challenge against Indian Hills Community College this time, as they fall 93-60 in their first game of the week on November 20th. Wabash shot 25 of 61, good for 41% from the field, compared to Indian Hills 34 of 72, good for 47.2% from the field. From behind the arc, Indian Hills was on fire, 13 of 27, good for 48% from behind the arc, compared to Wabash Valley 7 of 20, a respectable 35%. I know I said I want to be around 40, but 35 is the absolute lowest if you're going to jack up 20 shots. Really, the big difference here as well was Wabash Valley wasn't able to get to the free throw line only 4 times. They did make 3 of them, compared to Indian Hills 12 of 17. The rebounding battle as well as the turnover battle favor Indian Hills immensely. 41-28 in the rebounding battle, 20-9 in favor of Indian Hills in the turnover battle. Let's go ahead and talk about some box scores, starting with Indian Hills. Caden Nation, once again, led the way for the Warriors. 4 of 9 shooting, finishing with 12 points. 3 of 3 from behind the arc. And Mason Costello was 4 of 8 shooting, 4 of 7 from behind the arc. He had 5 rebounds to go along with his 12 points, while Nation had 9 rebounds to go along his 12 points. Now, Wabash was able to hold 3 of the 5 starters with either under 6-point shooting. So big kudos there to Coach McGee and his team. However, the bench had 3 players in double figures, led by Zevin Godson, who was 7 of 12 shooting, 3 of 7 from behind the arc, finishing with 19 points. He had 2 rebounds as well. Tayshawn Briggs was 5 of 9 shooting with 13 points, and Alton Manuel was 5 of 6 shooting, good for 13 points as well. Bridges had 9 rebounds, 4 of them being on the offensive end of the glass, and only 2 turnovers. While for Wabash Valley, they were led by Tamorian Grigsby, who was 6 of 11 shooting, had 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 block shots, finishing with 12 points. And Muja Burton was 4 of 15 shooting, finishing with 10 points, had 3 steals, 1 assist, and 2 rebounds as well. Kamaya Chandler off the bench for Coach McGee. He finished with 11 points, 3 of 8 shooting, 3 of 7 from behind the arc. And Gabe Bird was 4 of 7 shooting, finishing with 8 points as well. Again, this was just Indian Hills team that was able to pick up a huge victory and drop Wabash Valley to 5-3. And unfortunately for the Warriors, it did not get any easier as they took on Mineral Area for the second time, and for the second time they lost. However, this one a lot closer, 74-64 compared to their first meeting of 65-43. Leading the way stat-wise was Wabash Valley was 23 of 54, Mineral Area 22 of 48. Both teams were 6 of 19 from behind the arc. Mineral Area able to get to the free throw line over double the amount of times Wabash Valley, and actually made more free throws than Wabash Valley took. They made 24 free throws compared to Wabash Valley's 15 free throws attempted. Rebounding battle was knotted up at 27. However, Mineral Area turned the ball over 8 less times, and that's how we get to that 10-point defeat for Wabash Valley. They had no players in double figures, starting wise at least. Tamorian Grigsby was the closest of 4-6 shooting performance, finishing with 9 points and 4 rebounds. However, Jameel Barber was finished with 11 points, 5 of 6 from the foul line, 2 of 6 from behind the arc, and had 3 rebounds. But it was the Muja Burton show. He started against Indian Hills, came off the bench against Mineral Area, 7 of 11 shooting, finishing with 21 points, had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. And again, good to see him getting back on track there. Off the bench role. For Mineral Area, they were led by Preston Turner, who was 9 of 20 shooting, good for 24 points. And Edwin Dooling Jr., who was 5 of 8 shooting, good for 16 points. Turner had 4 rebounds and 2 steals, while Dooling was 4 of 6 from behind the arc, had 5 rebounds and 4 assists. However, the Cardinals only had 2 players off the bench score for them, and that was Jordan Logan and Aaron Walker Jr. Walker Jr. did it mostly from the free throw line. He was 6 of 8 shooting, good for 8 points, while Logan was grabbed 7 rebounds total, 6 of them being defensively, and finished with 6 points off of a 2 of 5 shooting performance as well. As a team, Wabash, again, very close game the second time around. So big kudos to Coach McGee. Yes, I know it wasn't the result that you were looking for, but being able to pull out a 10-point defeat really says a lot, especially as we all know it's harder to beat a team a second time. So Wabash Valley, unfortunately, goes 0-2 this week, but looks promising doing it, if that makes sense. And we wrap up this week's slate of games with Shawnee. They opened up their game in Carterville while they took on Triton and Indian Hills. First game of the Logan Classic, Triton versus Shawnee. Shawnee falls to Triton 77-82. They led a good portion of that second half and just faltered down the stretch. Coach Sparks and his team really giving Triton a run for their money. And that just shows that Shawnee's in mid-season form. They were 30 of 61 shooting from the field, a whopping 49.2. 7 of 18 from behind the arc, good for 38.9%. They also had 27 rebounds while only turning the ball over 10 times. And again, against a ranked Triton team, only turning the ball over 10 times is phenomenal. Shawnee had 2 starters in double figures, both with 22 points, and both shot 8 of 13 from the field. Xavier Bell and Johnny Anderson, like I said, both 8 of 13. Bell 3 of 4 from behind the arc while grabbing 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 block shots. Johnny Anderson was 5 of 5 from the free throw line, had 3 of his 5 offensive rebounds being offensive, with 1 assist as well, finishing with 22 points. James DeLoche came off the bench for Coach Sparks, 6 of 9 shooting, finishing with 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist as well. It was really, again, Coach Sparks had this team humming on all engines, just not able to pull out a victory in Logan against a ranked Triton team. It was close down to the wire again. It looked like Triton was going to go down. So that just makes Shawnee an extremely scary team. The second game that they played at Logan against Indian Hills, again, a closer matchup where they fall 64-52. Hills was really challenged in this classic. Again, a 2-point victory over the host, Logan, and then battling for their lives against Shawnee. Shawnee, unfortunately, the shooting woes caught up to them. 19 of 57 from the field compared to Indian Hills, 22 of 49. So neither team really shot particularly well. Hills was 8 of 27 from behind the arc compared to Shawnee's 5 of 16. Free throw wise, again, Indian Hills makes 12 of 22, while Shawnee was 9 of 13. It was the rebounding battle that kind of turned the tables a little bit. Hills wins it 38-32, but Shawnee only turned the ball over 7 times. This is what makes Shawnee such a scary team. They will play a team like Triton, turn the ball over only 10 times. And then against Indian Hills, turn the ball over even less. And we saw Indian Hills beat Logan and beat Wabash Valley earlier in the week. So it is amazing because we know Indian Hills can force the turnover, and Shawnee takes extremely good control of the ball. That's just what Coach Sparks teaches his kids. Indian Hills had 4 players in double figures, led by Mason Costello, 4 of 10 shooting from the field, had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and finished with 12 points. William Bagray Cassie was 4 of 5 shooting from the field, had 6 rebounds, and finished with 10 points. Trenton Walters was 3 of 8 shooting, finishing with 11 points and 5 assists, while Abalule Fall was 4 of 9 shooting, finishing with 11 points, 3 rebounds, but 4 turnovers. Bench play for the Warriors of Indian Hills were led by Quentin Perkins II, 3 of 6 shooting, good for 8 points, had 2 assists, 3 rebounds. Rebounding-wise, they were led by Jamal Inamini, who had 12 rebounds, 10 of them being on the defensive side of the ball. But he only scored 2 points. So again, For Shawnee, they were led by Ladricus Pittman, who was 5 of 13 shooting, good for 15 points, had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. But he had 3 of the 7 turnovers. But again, only turning the ball over 3 times against an Indian Hills team is spectacular. Johnny Anderson, another player in double figures, although he shot 3 of 10 from the field, had 6 rebounds and 1 steal. He finished with 10 points. Xavier Bell, a big part of that Triton game, fouls out in this game with only 3 points. And Coach Sparks couldn't get James Deloche going or Keshawn Washington going off the bench. Deloche finished with 6 points off of a 2 of 3 shooting performance from the foul line, 2 of 6 from the field. He grabbed 4 rebounds and 1 assist. So, again, even though they lose this ball game, this is a very good, I'll call it a good loss for Shawnee, because it shows that they can run with some of the ranked teams. And when you got a team like Vincennes, a team like Logan in your district, very promising going forward for the Saints. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the preview portion. Again, with the holiday, probably not as many games as normal going on. Starting with the Olney Central Blue Knights. Olney has 1 game this week. They take on Mineral Area in the Olney Central Classic on November 30th. Mineral Area, we've seen them a couple of times here as of late, especially against Logan. They've played them twice in Three Rivers and just recently. So it's going to be a challenging game for Olney. I think that they can win this ballgame if they play more like Columbia State and East Mississippi and not like they played against Three Rivers. If they turn the ball over, you're going to lose this ballgame against the Cardinals. They like to get at you and force the turnover, so keep control of the ball and you'll be in the ballgame. Again, it's just one of these teams that historically is always at Hutchinson. So it's going to be a very gut check game as we get into the month of December for Olney. Kind of on the same page of Olney is Wabash Valley. They play 2 games this week. First against Moberly area in the Moberly area Thanksgiving Classic. Vincennes was a part of this last year. It's a great slate of games for the Warriors as they take on the host school first and then take on State Fair in a rematch game on November 30th. They played at, actually this is an exact rematch because on November 9th against State Fair, they played at Moberly. So Coach McGee is able to see another State Fair team that is surprising this year. They are in the rankings or very close to the rankings. And Coach McGee, again, great scheduling on his part, getting Mineral Area twice, Indian Hills in here, and State Fair twice, along with the Moberly area. Going into district play after this Thanksgiving is going to be huge for him. If he can split the weekend, I consider that a big, big win. If he can win the weekend out, it is fantastic, and they have a great trip back from Moberly to Mount Carmel. So good luck, Coach McGee and the Wabash Valley Warriors. Up next is the Lakeland Lakers. They got 3 games this week, leading off Wednesday, November 27th at Lewis and Clark. Again, Lewis and Clark surprised me a little bit when they took SWIC to the brink. It is going to be a good game for Lakeland. They're 6-0 going into it. I see them beating Lewis and Clark. Now, it's Friday's game against Highland that I get a little bit more... It gets a little bit more interesting, and I'll talk to Coach Larry about it next week because Highland, again, they win or they're in that region tournament final every year. They host it. So a big-time get for Coach Larry to be able to get Highland to play. I know it's in Iowa for the Southeastern Classic. So it is one of those games, though. Very good team, very good challenge against your team. And let's not make any other mistakes. As soon as you play Highland, you got to turn right around and take on Southeastern Community College in the Classic as well. The host school, Southeastern, I got to see them at the Jamboree. They get at you, they dig at you, and it's going to be a very good game between these two schools. I think if Coach Larry can go 2 of 3 this weekend, it would be phenomenal, and I am extremely looking forward to having him on this year. I wasn't able to get him on last year, unfortunately, and that's on me. I reached out to Coach Larry this week, and he said whenever you want it. So I'm really looking forward to sitting down and talking to Coach Larry this week. Up next are the Vincennes Trailblazers, who have one game this week against Mineral Area College in the Olney Central Classic. So Mineral Area having to face Olney and then having to face Vincennes in this. And again, it's one of those classic Hutch matchups. Mineral Area, I saw them a couple times when I was at Hutch with Vincennes. Same with Moberly. So a huge test for the Blazers this year. As you get closer to district play, you take these games with a huge barometer. This is another barometer test for you. You lose against Columbia State, a Hutch team. Moberly, you battle to the Final Horn, but fall to them as well. So are you able to beat Mineral Area? That's going to be the big question here that Coach Franklin and his staff are going to have to answer. I think they can. Mineral Area has definitely shown that they are beatable. Again, we've seen them against Wabash Valley. We've seen them against Logan a couple of times. So they're beatable if you don't turn the ball over. And that's what has been Vincennes' biggest trouble this year, is turning the ball over and not shooting the ball well. Obviously, if you don't put the ball in the hoop, you're not going to win the ball game. But if you turn the ball over as well, you don't stand a high chance of winning a ball game either. So, again, enjoy the turkey a little bit. Get back to work on Friday because you have a tough opponent on Sunday, December 1st in Mineral Area College. Well, SWIC has a rematch game as well. They take on Moberly Area College, who's coming off, again, a huge win against Vincennes. They travel to southwestern Illinois to take on the Blue Storm. After earlier in the week, Moberly was able to pull out an 82-60 victory in the Midwest JUCO Challenge. So for SWIC, again, having one game this week, which isn't necessarily bad, having it before Thanksgiving, so you get to enjoy the holiday a little bit more. It's going to be very interesting to see how SWIC responds to their game against Lewis and Clark, against Moberly Area. Are they able to respond well? Are they able not to turn the ball over? Then I see this being a close game. If they play like they did back on November 8th, I see another 20-plus point victory for Moberly. It's one of those SWIC teams where you don't necessarily know where the chips are going to fall. It's going to be interesting to see, definitely. So good luck to SWIC out there as they host Moberly Area tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central tip-off time for that. Well, as of late, we have seen two district teams in the same classic, and it doesn't change here as Lincoln Trail travels to Southeastern Community College to be in the Broadway Classic as well. They take on the host school, Southeastern, on November 29th, 7 p.m. Central Time tip for that one. And again, this is gut check time for the Statesmen. Yes, you get a big win against Kankakee and Danville area and Three Rivers. Can you keep that momentum going against a Southeastern team that will get at you, that will force you to turn the ball over? that will force you into bad shots at times. If you're able to, I see you pulling out a huge win here. But it's going to rely on keeping control of the ball. If you play like you did against Kankakee, it will be interesting, to say the least. It will probably go into overtime like you did against Three Rivers. Then you got to turn around and play Highland. Again, a team that has been to Hutch in the recent years. They host their region tournament every year, and they make it to the championship game of that tournament almost every year. So, 2 big games for Coach Cotton at Lincoln Trail. They go into this weekend 6-0. If they come out of this weekend 8-0, they're going to be ranked in the mid-teens of the next rankings that come out for JUCO. And I think it's possible. They have played really good basketball this year. This is not the team that we saw last year at all, obviously. But they've turned that page and they're starting to build something here in Robinson. Well, it seems that Kankakee is in their mid-district swing as they take on John A. Logan in Carbondale tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern tip-off, or 6 p.m. Central tip-off time between the Volunteers and the Cavaliers of Kankakee Community College. Again, Region 4, always tough. We saw this for Logan with Triton twice, and now in Sauk Valley. So look out for Kankakee to put up a challenge against Logan. Now after this, they don't play again until December 7th. So they get to enjoy their Thanksgiving, get to enjoy the family time. But they got to take care of business first tonight. And I think they can. That huge win against Triton and taking Indian Hills to the buzzer is a step in the right direction for Coach Smith-Peters and this team, who are still trying to find their identity a little bit. Again, Coach Smith-Peters pulls no punches in his pre-district slate of games, because after Kankakee, you have Three Rivers and then Moberly again. So it's going to be huge for him to pick up a win against Kankakee. I think he can, obviously, but it is going to be a challenge. Shawnee is another one of those teams that can enjoy the holiday a little bit more, as they have one game, and that is tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central tip-off time against WKCTC. And again, 4-4 going into this game. I see Shawnee being able to pull out a huge victory here. And that's coming off of a 5-point loss to Triton, a 12-point loss to Indian Hills. But in both those games, you had the opponent on the ropes. And Coach Sparks can really do that to you. I think they got hit in the mouth a little bit in the beginning of the year against Link Year Prep. But they've been able to right the ship ever since. And I see this game going no differently. After this, they don't play again until December 4th. So go ahead and enjoy the holiday after you take care of business on Tuesday night. The final team is going to be the Kaskaskia Blue Devils, and they take on the Southeastern Illinois College Falcons. I think this is going to be a lot like when they took on Missouri Baptist in a rematch battle, where they win by 20-plus points. They won the first matchup, 79-52. I expect a little bit lower scoring game this time around, just because that's how Kaskaskia plays. They won against Missouri Baptist on opening night, 104-63. Then 75-45. Oakland City, they won 95-58. And then on Saturday, 91-63. So I look for that to stay the same. I do think that they'll pick up their 8th win of the season, and then go into next week's slate of games looking good on paper. It's just going to be one of those games where how close is it compared to how much do you win by? I think it's a 20-plus point victory for Kaskaskia against Southeastern, so they'll get to enjoy their Thanksgiving as well, as they get ready to take on Indiana Elite Prep on December 3rd. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Again, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and these teams get healthy as they rest up and enjoy turkey stuffing and all that stuff. It's going to be an interesting as we make the turn into December, which means the turn into district play. I look for Lincoln Trail to be top half of the league this year because they're playing really good basketball, which is surprising to me when I did the preview show. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode, everybody. Again, Lincoln Trail, surprising team once again this week. They were last week as well, as they beat Three Rivers. Now they're in the receiving votes category of the rankings to go along with the Vincennes. It's going to be a very interesting week, slate of games. A lot of these teams play once and then they get to enjoy their break, while others have to play 3 times. So, next week, I have Coach Larry on from Lakeland College. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with him. I was able to talk to him a little bit at the Jamboree, and I'm hoping to expand our relationship. Again, I apologize, Coach Larry, that I wasn't able to get you on last year. That's on me. I should have reached out to you a lot sooner, but I am looking forward to our conversation next week, and I will see you all in the next episode. Peace.